Ready for bold choices that make life simpler and more joyful? Welcome to the Bold and Brilliant podcast, where women share the decisions that shape how they live and work. Today's guest is Mary Lummerding, chef and founder of Kitchen Times, who helps busy, home-based professionals create healthful, easy meals and actually have fun in the kitchen. Mary isn't a nutritionist, but she expertly partners with health professionals to turn recommendations into simple, doable plans that work in real life, if that's what you need. In this episode, Mary shares one bold decision that shaped what came next and how bringing joy back into the kitchen can transform your energy, your routines, and your life. Welcome, Mary, to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. Mary, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yay. Okay. I'm really excited because you've been hanging out with us in the Gather community for quite some time. You attend lots of things. So you and I have had a chance to get to know each other, really kind of understand each other's energy. And I love what you do, the way you describe what you do and helping people to be comfortable and enjoy their time in the kitchen. So I want people to learn more about, like, what does that look like for them? So tell us a little bit about, let's start kind of with the, how do you work with clients and what's your mission? Why are you doing what you're doing? Let's start there and then we'll go to history and stuff like that after.
Okay. Well, as a cooking coach, I like people to enjoy their time in the kitchen. I don't always feel like cooking. So I want everybody to be around the world to be a cook. And the way that I work with people is to look at their schedule and how cooking can fit in with them.
Mm,
They come to me with the idea that they want to cook, whether it's for health reasons, financial, or even social, like including the kids. So we can look at their schedule and figure out how cooking can fit in to what they are able to do, what they want to do, what fits in their schedule.
yeah, I love that because, as a mom and someone who isn't necessarily excited every day to be in the kitchen for any length of time.
Mhm,
Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not something I'm interested in. So I love that
mhm.
your whole goal is to help people have more fun because we will do the things we enjoy, right? What
Right.
started you on this particular road? I mean, I'm sure you've been cooking for a long time, but
Mhm.
what started you in helping other people enjoy their time in the kitchen?
Well, I do enjoy helping people. And as I said, I was kind of surprised when I did find out that there's generations now that grow up not cooking, like their
Yeah.
parents didn't cook. Some people were latchkey kids, and you know, I even gave my son, Lunchables, and we just thought that's the way you eat. But there's a good movement towards eating healthier and
Yeah.
taking care of ourselves, and we're finding out how bad a lot of this food is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What came to my mind was microwaves. Like when
Mm-hmm,
microwaves started, kind of in the early
mm-hmm,
80s, it was a
mm-hmm.
new thing.
Yeah.
I remember the laughing with my parents over time because the first microwave I ever had, they gave me, which was their wedding gift, which was in like 1982. Is my dad's, not my mom, my
Yeah.
stepmom.
Yeah.
And it was this giant machine that was like this really big microwave. Of course, now they're this big and they cost you $4, right? But
Mm,
it was a big deal to have that new technology in the house in the early 80s. Let's go back because you're not excited about helping other people cook unless you are excited about cooking for yourself. And you've been cooking for a long time. You mentioned to me earlier that you used to cook with your mom when you were young. Tell
mhm.
us about, how your love for cooking and your enjoyment of cooking for yourself and for your family started and how that grew over time.
Well, thing is, I don't always want to cook. You know, I make dinner, I make meat, potato, and two vegetables because that's what my husband wants. He's a
Mm,
carpenter, he works hard all day, He doesn't stop for lunch. So, and one day I did only make one vegetable, and he's like, "Where's the other vegetable?" And I've talked to other women that encounter that as well. And so I had to figure out ways to make it more interesting. And I didn't always want to be there, and I had to figure out ways to make it more fun as well. And
Yeah.
so that ended up being the music part of it. And I talked to a chef friend of mine. We were comparing notes about working in the kitchens. And I said to her that I think it's because as a chef, it's our job to solve problems in the kitchen.
Mhm.
How can we do something more efficiently? How can we do it safely and cleanly? So I think it just came as part of being a chef that solving problems in the kitchen. Like, I don't like cooking. How am I going to make it better? I
Right.
have a small kitchen that gets messy really easily. How are we going to keep it tidy and work better? And how are we going to fit it into our lifestyle? You know?
Yeah, the amount of time you might have, or the tools that are at your
Yeah.
disposal, or the space you have, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you said something about music, and we're going to get back to that because I don't know what you're talking about for that. So that's a good question
Uh,
for a
yeah.
minute. But before we do that, talk about becoming Chef Mary, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that, you know, one of the big things about our, whoa, oh, I raised my hand by accident. I always do that. I talk with my hands and then I'm like, wait, why did I was
Yeah.
looking like this and we
Yeah.
shifted sides. Anyway, um, so we were talking earlier about
Mhm.
the big bold decision that you made that changed everything for you. But before that, you were a kid, you lived, like, tell us about how you were brought up and then how that bold decision that you chose
Mhm.
changed the trajectory of who you were that eventually got you where you are. Like, take us back to younger Mary and becoming Chef Mary.
Okay. Well, I did grow up with a mom who stayed at home and she wasn't happy cooking. She
Mm,
had her favorites. She made cream puffs at New Year's, and she made
mhm.
the real ones with the choux paste and the whipping cream and the chocolate sauce. So I think she liked to make things, just not the day-to-day
Just the
things.
day
So
to day. Yeah.
yeah, so as one of the daughters in the family, I started cooking, and my
Mhm.
summer jobs were cooking. I got to do one at a playhouse, which was a lot of fun. And oh, and then coming out of high school, they always ask us which college, university you're going to go to. And I was choosing between cooking and art. I figured that cooking I could make a living with. And I found a 2-year program in Toronto called Culinary Management. So I signed up and they took me on. And I moved from living out in a reclusive farmhouse setting and moving to Toronto. And yeah, I remember looking for a place to live with my sister, and
Mhm.
it was just crazy. Yeah, I could
What
tell.
a train, like, culture shock is the word that comes to mind,
Oh
or just
yeah, yeah.
shock period, right? To go
Oh
from
yeah.
living kind of in the countryside to Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
which I've been
Mm-hmm.
to, which is an incredible
Yeah.
city. It's very vertical,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
to go from the land to the
Oh
city
yes. I
must have
didn't
been
have a
wild.
phone. I used a phone booth on the corner, and this
Sure.
car kept going around the block and around the block. And I told my mom, and I said, I think I'll go back inside because this car keeps going by. And
Did
there was
you
a
think that they
laundromat.
were like watching you?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
scary.
And there was a laundromat across the street, and the guy asked me if I was Italian. It's like, no. So then he moved on. It's like, thankfully.
That's interesting.
And then I
Okay.
was I was sitting and waiting for the bus one day, and a guy stopped and said, there's a bus strike on. I had no
Oh
idea.
no.
So he offered me a ride to school, and that's how I got to school one day. So
That's terrifying that oh my gosh. Young girl from the country in the big city taking rides from strangers. I love that. Okay, so
yeah.
but you're like, okay, I love to create. art, food,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I've had jobs cooking, so I'm gonna go
Mhm.
into a program that at least I know I'll be able to be in an industry that has jobs
Yeah.
on every corner, right? There's restaurants
Yes.
everywhere. And so that's a big, big, bold decision. And
Mhm.
not one that a lot of people with you said reclusive, kind of a sheltered ish background would really choose, right? What made you like, what was in you that knew that you wanted to take kind of this leap to this big city situation?
I didn't see there was any choice. There was no jobs where I lived.
Mm,
It was you have to move to the big city,
yeah,
which
unless
would
you're
have been
gonna,
London or Toronto or you know, um, and everybody said, you're going to go to college or university. So I just found a program
done something you liked and took
and
the leap.
yeah,
Were
yeah,
were you in Ontario in that general vicinity?
yeah. It was a 4 hour drive from where my parents lived.
Okay.
I could take the train though. I could take the train to Toronto to London, and then my parents would pick me up in London. But sometimes there was a bus, and then I could take the bus and get off the bus and walk a mile to my parents' house. Yeah,
Wow.
those were the
Awesome.
days, eh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so you went to the city, you signed up for this 2-year program,
Yes.
and you said it was culinary management, which is not like chef school, it's a
Hmm.
management program. So tell us
Hmm.
about coming out of that and what happened next.
Well, the the chefs in George Brown College in Toronto are Escoffier chefs.
So what does that mean for people who don't know?
Escoffier, it's about the highest level, I think, of chefdom. They're trained in France or, really, really high level. And they had all the silver platters. And one of the buffets we put on, it was at the no, Loma Castle in Toronto. Yeah. And actually, the ballroom was set up for dancing and the music was playing. So one of the instructors and one of the students were ballroom dancing around. And
Oh,
that's what happens behind the scenes before all the
right
people
before all the people
show
show
up.
up.
Yeah, the two chefs are dancing around the ballroom.
Oh, that's
But
fun.
yeah, so yeah, there was chef's training. We took baking and and then the programs like math and English, business math. There was a whole program about how to write a memo. That was crazy. She smoked. She chain smoked. And most of my class
The
did not
teacher, the
smoke.
instructor did?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She'd be puffing on that thing and it was just and hardly anybody in my class smoked cigarettes
Well, it's
anyway.
going to
So
affect how you taste food and everything and all
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
skills that they valued, right?
And one of the parties that we had, it was a potluck, and a fellow brought a steak tartare, and he actually put a fancy leaf on top, if you can imagine what that was. And
A fancy
and
leaf.
then the
Got
next
it.
week, the next week, the chef was demonstrating steak tartare, and he said, "Well, I'm not going to make very much because I'm sure none of you have had this." And meanwhile, we'd all had some at this party the week before, and we're all diving in because it was so good.
Yeah,
He was really
amazing.
surprised. So
Amazing. I'd be interested if people listening have ever tried steak tartare because I have. My mom made it
yeah.
actually for a party once and it was so good.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So if you're
Mm,
listening out there, make a comment wherever you're at and let us know if you tried steak tartare because that's a good question like out in the
mhm.
world because people aren't going to really even know what it is,
Right.
right? They think it's
Yes.
just a steak,
Yep.
maybe, or that it's not cooked. But what does that mean, and how is it safety? All of those things.
Hmm.
So really
Hmm.
interesting. Cool. So you went through this program. You learned how to be a business chef, like a business
Yes.
person in the
Yes.
world of chefdom.
Hmm.
And then what happened next?
Um, well, I was struggling to live in Toronto on beginning chef cook's wages. And talking about how naive I was, where there was a great big work table and everybody's around it. And so I asked the chef for a raise.
While everyone was there.
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, come into my office. And the office was actually a stairwell off of the kitchen. We stood there and he gave me a blast of, you know, and then he told
Because
me,
that's in the days we don't talk about money in front of other people for sure.
yes,
That's only a
very much
recent
so.
occurrence, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I couldn't afford to live in, I didn't know how to live in cheap in
Yeah.
Toronto. My sister lived in Victoria, and so I moved in with her. And it
Which, for
actually,
those who don't know, is in BC, which is the
yeah,
whole other
across
side
the,
of Canada.
and it actually helped her keep her house because that's when interest rates went up to 19+%.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't have been able to keep her house otherwise
Oh, good.
if
It
I hadn't
happens
been living
everything
with
happens
her.
for a reason. So that's great.
We lived
Awesome.
together for 4 years and had a fabulous time.
And so that's how you ended up in Victoria,
Yeah,
in BC.
yeah, from Ontario.
Amazing.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So now you take all of that training and your own
Mhm.
personal experience and your love for helping people and help them to have fun in the kitchen. So let's go to this music thing that you said, because I
Oh,
have no
yes.
idea what that is. This is new for me. So
Okay.
it sounds like maybe you use music to make being in the kitchen fun. So tell us
Mhm.
what does that mean? Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I have a really nice big Bluetooth speaker, and so I have Spotify and playlists for getting started cooking. So that would be like Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk, and Tina Turner.
Just to like
And
raise the
yeah,
energy in
raise the
the
energy,
area.
dance around the kitchen a bit first and have a good time. And then there's when we're eating dinner, it's usually more mellow, like old blues music.
Nice.
And then once again, when you're cleaning up, if you want to relax, it'll be slow and mellow. And if you need a bit of a poke, then it would be a bit more upbeat.
Nice. I
But
love it. So you have a curated playlist for, whatever part of the
mhm,
experience you're in, whether you're cooking or consuming your dinner and
yeah,
enjoying it,
yeah,
or, the after part, which, no one likes to do the
mhm,
cleanup, but it's got to be done, right?
that's right.
Although a clean kitchen at the end is a very nice thing to have.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
I love that. And so you're talking about in-person classes that you've
mhm,
done.
yeah.
And are these like, do you do this in your house? Do you have a kitchen that you use? How many people are we talking about? Like, lay it out for us.
Well, in person, I've worked just one-on-one or done
Oh,
demonstrations.
okay, great.
So one person, and we started out virtually, and then she lives in a nearby town outside of Victoria. So I went and visited her, and we actually had dinner together
Fun.
and a good time. So then I did a follow-up with her to see how it was going for her.
And how was it going?
It was going good. The routine that we'd worked out was working for her
Awesome.
because they were going out to eat with friends later in the week because they were tired, didn't want to cook. And but on Sunday they would go to Costco, and Monday she was home. So I said, well, let's get the slow cooker out. So she would make a bigger pot of something, and by the end of the day on Monday, she wouldn't have to make dinner. It was all ready to go. And then she could freeze some of it and have it on a Thursday or Friday when she doesn't want to cook. So that was working for her.
Awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. I actually have
Yeah.
something in my slow cooker as we speak right now.
Oh, so your house must smell wonderful.
Well, we just put it in right before it
Oh,
just hit like two. So it doesn't smell wonderful yet, but it
not yet.
will.
It will.
It
Yes.
will.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I love that. Okay, but so you mentioned doing it online and then seeing in person. And so
mhm.
are you doing mostly online support of people, like doing online workshops, or like describe how you're working with clients these days?
Well, what I really want to do is have a membership and bring a group of people together. I would have a 2 hour live session where we can demonstrate what we're doing um, and cook together if people want to. And then we can have questions and answers. And I'll send information. I don't do a lot of recipes, but I'm working on it.
Okay, that's great.
And yeah, but there's so many recipes around. I help people to identify what's a good recipe. And one
Okay.
tip is to look at the remarks underneath because that's where people will make suggestions about how to improve the recipe.
Like finding an online recipe and then other people commenting, going, "Oh yeah,
Yes.
this was great, and I made this adjustment,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
made it better."
Yeah,
Okay.
like I had a muffin recipe last week but it was really bland, so I added some cinnamon and chili powder to it and it was much
Ooh, chili
better.
powder. Awesome.
Yeah, it's one of those background flavors, kind of like salt and pepper, where you don't really taste it, but it brings out the flavors more.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So,
Mhm,
so those kind of tips are the when you're talking about helping people enjoy themselves more, those are the kind of
mhm.
tips that you can share with
Yes,
them
yes,
because, a lot of us can follow a recipe, but
mm,
if it doesn't turn out awesome, often we think maybe it
yes,
was our own fault or we're just discouraged because,
yeah.
well,
Or
clearly I
what to
don't know
do
how to
with
pick a
it.
good recipe.
One chef in a restaurant, he tried making a chocolate souffle and it didn't really work out. So he put it in a loaf pan in a freezer and called it frozen chocolate parfait
Souffle.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's knowing your food and what you can do with
I
things.
love that. So
Huh.
speaking of which, knowing things, education, obviously a big deal. You have your own education. We all have our perspectives, but I want to call out the information about your book because I did not know specifically the title of your book.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about this before we started today, and I think this is brilliant. Your book is called Kitchen Chaos to Culinary Bliss.
That's
Organize
right.
and enjoy cooking. Oh, you have a copy.
I have a copy.
Okay.
I hold it in front of my body. You
Yeah,
can
put it
see
right
it.
in front of your face. Exactly. And you can find it on Amazon. I did that.
Yeah.
I just put in Mary Lummerding and there you were.
Mm-hmm.
You have a unique name. You're easy to find.
Yes.
I love this. It's only been out for a little over a year. And you and I
Mm-hmm.
have only known each other about that long as well.
Yes.
So this is very exciting to me because this is the
Mm-hmm.
first I've heard of it. I love it. Tell us something like why did you write the book? What do people get out of having that? Because it's a great way to take the next step when maybe they're not used to doing things online or being in person with people that they haven't,
Mm-hmm.
met in person.
Well, my book is how to enjoy cooking. It's getting yourself organized, like figuring out which tools you really need. And
Because we all have way more things in our kitchen than we ever really need.
yeah,
Because we just
or they're not set up where it's handy. Like one
yeah.
friend of mine, she had to go in the living room cabinet to get certain things. And I said, "Well, what's in your kitchen?" And she said, "Well, I do have these platters I don't use." So we
We'll put
switched,
those in the living
you
room.
know? So yeah, my book is about having equipment that is more necessary,
Yeah.
the shopping process that works for you, just handy little things. The
Awesome.
book has been reviewed a lot, and people are surprised. Like, they say it's a quick read. It's a very simple little book, but it's just full of things. Like even a person who cooks gets ideas out of it. Like have a compost bucket right on the counter, one of those
Yeah.
yogurt tubs, and just put your stuff
Yeah.
into
For all
it.
your scraps as you're going through
Yeah,
everything.
as you're cooking.
Yeah.
So, and there are a few recipes. I think there's 6 recipes I managed to write. Yeah.
I love it. That's great. And,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking about, myself, but I'm also thinking about, holidays are coming up. I'm thinking about, who do I know who tells me that they'd like to enjoy being in the kitchen more, and like you said,
Mhm.
everyone's got some sort of desire to take care of themselves better, eat more
Mhm.
healthy, but
Mhm.
they want it to be easy. And so when you're helping
Yes.
people make it easy and make it enjoyable, like that's the first step. So we definitely want to connect people with you to take that first step because without the first step, we're not taking any steps. And
That's
it
right.
doesn't have to be some big step, it just has to be a start. So I love that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So good. Okay, so we're almost out of time. What I want to ask you one last question is, the folks who feel like they have their things And it's just like they do what they do because that's just how they are. Talk a little bit about how we can change that to be more supportive with our cooking.
Right. Well, there's a couple of people I remember talking to. One fellow's had 3 main recipes that he rotated, but he was getting tired of them.
Yeah.
And another fellow tried the delivery service, but it took 20 minutes to make his food instead of the 5 minutes in the microwave. And I said, "And how was the food? Was it any good?" And he paused, like he hadn't even really considered
Yeah.
the enjoyment of the food. All he
It was
thought
all about
about
how
was
hard it was and how much time it took
how
instead of
much
whether it was
time he
actually
was
good.
losing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he paused and he said, "Yeah, it tasted much better, and actually it's healthier and much better for you." I know the delivery services, they create a lot of garbage, but it's a wonderful way to start cooking. I know
Oh yeah.
someone
Oh, we were
else that
talking about that
started.
the other day where I told you I
Mhm.
think that I had done Hungry Root or something like that before.
Yes.
I think you
Yep.
mentioned
HelloFresh, I think.
HelloFresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
interesting way to start, but it is something that I think most people are like, I want to do this to get started, but I don't want it to be
Mhm.
forever because it does
Yep.
create a lot of waste and it is a lot more
Mhm.
expensive.
Yeah. But they
I
do
always
end
think,
up with a set of cards, recipe cards,
yeah.
that make it really easy.
Well,
So,
maybe that's your next project and is a set of recipe cards, because if they're doing the service just to get the recipe cards long term, you
mhm.
just need to get them the recipe cards, maybe.
True. That's another idea. I'll write that one down too.
I love
But
it.
yeah, so yeah, I just want people to cook and enjoy themselves.
Yeah,
And there's ways of making it more enjoyable.
I love it. I love it. What
Yeah.
would be like if someone came to you and just said, I just don't want to. Like, do you have like the first place you want people to suggest considering starting? It's like I've tried and it's never. I'll be me for a second.
Okay.
I try, I want to. I
Mm-hmm.
don't love it when I allow myself to make the time. It's not an unenjoyable experience, but it is challenging to make the time. And part of my problem then too is by the time I make the time, the food that I brought last week, that when I thought I was going to have the time, is no good anymore. So how do I get out of
Mm-hmm.
that rut of preparing and then not executing, and then when I'm ready to execute, I'm not prepared? Maybe this is more of a therapy problem.
There's a lot to that. But it's like I have a 10-minute lunch. You chop up a cucumber, a tomato, um, use a bit of creamy dressing and some cooked chicken, and maybe some fresh strawberries if you have them. And
Ooh,
that's a lunch. You know.
yeah. It's a little elevated from what it would have been without 5 minutes worth of work.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
And maybe set the clock for 10 minutes and see how much you can do in 10 minutes and realize if I put on some music and work in the kitchen for 10 minutes, this is what I can produce.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there again, you're adding the music in. Clearly, you
Yes.
know that people
Yes.
get uplifted when there's a beat underneath what's going on. I
Mhm.
love it. I
Mhm.
love it. That's
Mhm.
great. Well, Mary, I'm so thrilled to have spent this time with you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and just for, being a positive influence for people, right? You're not trying to make anybody do anything. You're not trying to convince them that they should do anything. But if
Mhm.
they're ready to do it differently, you
Yes.
want to help them. And
Absolutely.
it's just a beautiful way to be. And so I really appreciate you for being that way.
Thank you, Tracy. It's been fun
Awesome.
talking too. I really enjoyed
Yay, I know. I'm really
it.
glad too. I feel like I really definitely get to know you better today too. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you again. And we'll see everyone next time on the Bold and Brilliant podcast.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Root, and I want to invite you to check out the show notes, find out where you can connect with our guests, find out more about what I and the Gather community have to offer you, and be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. Thanks so much.